that's been loved. Took the get well soon cars and stuffed animals. Poured the old ginger beer down the sink. Dad always told me, don't you cry when you're down. But Mum, there's a tear every time that I blink. Oh, I'm in pieces, it's tearing me up. But I know a heart that's broke is a heart that's been loved. So I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mum. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go. When God takes you back, He'll say hallelujah, you're home. I fluffed the pillows, made the bed, stacked the chairs up. Folded your nightgowns neatly in a case. John said he'd drive, then put his hand on my cheek and wiped a tear from the side of my face.
Thank you, Roxy. I want to welcome you all, family and friends, as you gather here in this most appropriate place, the Goolwa Aquatic Club, to farewell and celebrate the life of a greatly loved family member and friend. My name is Josephine Carestes, and as a celebrant, I feel privileged that Robert and Kylie last week shared some of their memories of Barbara with me. The music for this ceremony has been chosen as favourites of Barbara and the family, and also to let you know that we're all being live streamed so that others not able to join here today can view the ceremony. Would you kindly ensure that your mobile phones are switched off and turned to silent? Thank you. And if you haven't signed the memorial book, there will be an opportunity later. She rose with dawn, no time for rest. With steady hands, she gave her best. The fields, the farm, the life she made, through sweat and will, she never swayed. Her voice was firm, her rules were clear. She led with strength, yet held us near. A heart devoted, fierce and true, she did the work that few would do. Not just for self, but all around, she built up others, held her ground. A neighbour, leader, guiding light. She stood for justice, fought for right. Her hands now rest, her labour done. Her spirit lingers in the sun. In every harvest, every tree, in all she gave, her legacy. The author of this poem is unknown, but I believe its words reflect something of Barbara's very full life. As well, I hope they are words of consolation for family members closest to her. Her children, Robert and his wife Catherine, Kylie and her husband Sean, her brothers and sisters, Marie, Doug deceased, Bruce deceased, Ian and Helen. Her grandchildren, Nathan, Isabel, Caitlin and Cameron. Her nieces and nephews, her great-nieces and great-nephews, her volunteer colleagues and her neighbours and her many friends. On Friday the 28th of March 2025, Barbara's journey in this world ended when she passed away. And your presence here to this memorial service means a lot to the family, and that you've taken the time to be here. Thank you. The family would also like to thank Tanya Mitchell and the Goolwa Aquatic Club family. It's only natural that you should be sad today, because in a practical sense, Barbara is no longer a part of your lives. But although grieving, there is much to be thankful for. Barbara lived a good at times difficult but fulfilling life, and I can't imagine that there's anyone here who does not feel themselves enriched by having known her. In a number of ways, death unites us all. Barbara's death demands that, for a time, each of you put away your work, your cares, your business and your pleasure to unite yourself with everyone here, fellow mourners who share that deep common bond of love and respect for Barbara. It is at a time like this that we stop the rush of life, we pause for a while and reflect. We reflect on how much we owe to the goodness of Barbara and generations of family who preceded her, the energy of men and women who toiled in faith and patience for the children of their day. We derive from them our life, our health, our stores of sustenance and our learning, our all. And I think it's one of our profoundest joys to know that we are all united to this great past. When we think about Barbara's remarkable life, there is quite a lot to reflect on. What was Barbara Johns really like? What made her the compassionate, intelligent, resilient lady that she undoubtedly was? I'm going to give some biographical details and a condensed life story, and then other family members are going to share some of their memories with us. And then we'll open it up to you, the guests. And if you would like to do so, you too are welcome to share a few words about how you knew Barbara. Barbara was born on the 2nd of October 1938 to Nora and Edgar Rodder, with Marie, Doug and Bruce, both now deceased, Ian and Helen as her brothers and sisters. A bright student, Barbara attended the local schools at Maitland before leaving school prematurely to help her own parents on the farm. Maitland. Yeah? And it wasn't long afterwards that she met Stanley Johns at the back fence, Kylie thinks. And they married when she was 20 years old. Baby Stan, known as David, arrived first, followed by Robert shortly after. Tragically, David and his wife Angela, the parents of Kylie, were killed in an accident in December 1979, and Barbara and Stan took over the care of Kylie, who was aged only 10 months at the time. Since then, Barbara became a devoted mum to Kylie and later grandma to Kylie's children, Caitlin and Cameron. Barbara was hardworking, and other words that describe her character are loyal, with a stoic nature, and, although strict at times, her spirit of generosity shone through. She had a zest for life, giving generously of her time to whatever was needed. Farm duties, her family tasks and volunteer activities. In whatever community she lived, she met the need. Her roasts were legendary, and I'm sure we'll hear more about her cooking skills later. She was extremely creative and showed talent in whatever she took up, perfecting the skill: ceramics, pottery, doll making, crochet, knitting, cake decorating, smocking, her garden, and in particular, the growing of magnificent roses. She would enter major competitions, and not only enter those major competitions, but she'd win them. Barbara had deep pools of empathy, and we can see how she showed this in the way she cared for her family members. She knew that there is nothing more important in this life than the relationship that we have with others. And her children are eternally grateful for the mother they had in Barbara. In fact, although we know she could be strict at times, Robert remembers that as youngsters, his cousins, Barbara's nieces and nephews loved coming over for sleepovers at any opportunity. Earlier today, family members placed significant items on this ceremonial table. This table is important. Symbols give us meaning and are reminders that lead us to truths, beliefs, and people in our lives. You will see a collection of items, including examples of Barbara's quilting, smocking, knitting, and photos that were significant to and of Barbara. So to take us further along the journey of remembering her life, her son Robert, and then Sean, Kylie's husband, and Caitlin and Isabel, Barbara's granddaughters, will share some of their memories. So Robert, your turn.
Those of you here today that know me, I'll try and keep this a little bit shorter so we can at least get you home for dinner tonight. On behalf of our family, I'd like to thank you all for coming today. By being here, you all know some of Mum's story, and I'd like to add just a little bit more. Mum was our family. Mum was our family cornerstone. Hang on, I'll get over this in a sec. No, she held the family together during difficult times. Spoke up if she thought there was wrong decisions. Would encourage us, and and she would lead by example in helping us all grow, and a family was everything to her. Mum was very proactive in each of the communities that Mum lived. I can remember back in the late 60s out at Lameroo, Mum was a foundation member of the St John Ambulance out there. I can remember the Pinaroo had an ambulance, Lameroo didn't, and they needed a core group of, I think 10 or 12, and Mum put a hand up, and I can remember going, Dad was on a tractor or driving in the truck somewhere, and sleeping in the back of the Chrysler Royal car, freezing cold, while Mum was in there getting ambulance training. And she was first president chair of the ambulance auxiliary that raised funds to keep that ambulance going at Lameroo. She was on the school council out there, and again here later in at Goolwa. I remember she was involved in setting up a youth club out at Lameroo. Played tennis. She'd put her hand up to help on committees and groups if needed, wherever she was. She was secretary of this club for a decade or more, or quite a bit over a decade. I think a patron and then a life member. Mum's early life on the farm, I remember growing up. We had a small dairy at Lameroo. Mum used to, milk the cows before got us all off to school, and Dad would be, we had the stock crates, and then Dad built an intensive piggery with 400 odd pigs under cover, and Dad would get into the truck and he'd go off somewhere carting livestock, and was left Mum with a shovel and all that, and sweeping out the pig pens. That was all. Mum just did the lot. She loved her house cows. That was funny. She had this Tids, which and Sally was about Tid's 7th or 8th calf, and Mum just loved those cows. She used to go out, there'd be in a 50-acre paddock, and Mum would go out and go, "Come on," and these cows would all look up and come in, and she'd just milk them where they stood. When Mum would go away, Dad and I would have to milk the cows. They didn't like men. Dad would get wound up, and I think I always thought a more appropriate name for those two cows was Jermaine and Greer. Mum drove the school bus, the Yapara and Parilla South bus for Lameroo there, which is a big 40-foot bus. I don't know, 6 or 8 years. She was well known on that one. And then eventually drove for Ross Pedler here at school bus in Goolwa. Mum's cooking and all that. She was what I called a trader. Growing up, we used to head off with a bootload in the car full of jams and chutneys and relishes and all that to someone that had a big mulberry tree, and she'd trade a bootload of sauces and all that for a bootload of mulberries, and then she'd mix that with all the plums that we had growing and the figs into jam, and then head off down to Auntie Adeline and Uncle Max at Murray Bridge that had glass houses, and we'd end up back with another car just full of tomatoes, ready for the next trade. Growing up, I remember we'd go off to church and we had the wood fire stove in the kitchen there, and whether it be in the middle of winter or in the summer, Mum would chuck a lamb roast in the wood stove, and we'd go to church and it was cooked when we got home. And even in the middle of summer, I could never work that out, cooking a lamb roast on a hot day. But no matter what, Mum cooked a roast pork, the crackling. If ever Christmas and all that, whether it was on a Weber, a gas stove, a wood stove, the crackling was always absolutely perfect. Cooking, some would remember Mum's banana caramel tarts. That was pretty legendary, with all the homemade caramel, and then the kids, all their sausage rolls and pinwheels, and Mum always had just enough in the freezer, always ready for the next party, and it was already ready to go. Her fruit cakes, and I think there's still one Christmas pudding that in Mum's freezer at the moment that we can't wait till next Christmas to have that one. Different things with Mum in our years on the farm at Pibinga in, I think it was 1978. And we had a fire at harvest down in the scrub, the 1,200 acres down the back. All the district come in, the other farmers, fire trucks up from Pinaroo, down from Loxton. And what Mum saw of that was she saw a heap of hungry men. And her straightaway instincts hit the freezer, out comes the legs of lamb and the beef, and starts cooking. The bread maker went into overdrive. She called up the cows again to make iced coffee. On day 2 of that fire, I remember Mum and the Valiant car would enter this 500-acre paddock, and there'd be all these fire trucks and farm utes all along this scrub line, and they'd see the Valiant come in the gate, and they just all turned and they all went to the Valiant because they knew the food was there and the iced coffee. Mum's garden, as was said before, always had a big veggie garden over the years on the farms, and but here in Goolwa you've got some pretty ordinary white sandy dirt that Mum could just build it up, and then there was roses sort of flowering for at least 8 months of the year, and the dahlias were my place in choice red dirt. I get them up to this high. Mum used to be able to get them up to this high. And yeah, I could go on about, Mum's hobbies over the years with the dolls and the cake decorating and the quilting and the knitting. doing cooking entries into the Royal Adelaide Show and all sorts of things. But Mum loved her Adelaide Crows, the footy. She'd watch 4 nights of footy each week. She just loved watching footy and loved the Crows. And just closing here, I'd like to thank Joe for the help over this last week. I'd really like to thank Mum's friends in the community here, the Goolwa Aquatic Club, the friends that she used to go to fish night, the Goolwa ladies, old term Yummy Mummies, that group. All that support that and the friendship you gave Mum. I'd like to thank Rhonda that lived across from Mum, the help that she gave Mum over the years, the in-house care in the last few years, that the ladies that helped Mum to stay active and live in the home. I just got to get myself here. Marina Michael. I really don't know how. I really don't know how to thank you. You just, we're all breaking up here. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert, for those meaningful comments. Okay, now we're going to hear from Caitlin.
Barbara was many things to many different people. A mother, a grandmother, a sister, an auntie, a friend, a best friend. She was known for her warm smile and her listening ear, her to die for cooking, and you could always find her digging in the garden or shuffling around the kitchen to put on a cup of tea. When she came down to Adelaide, she'd always brought treasures of baked goods, jams, biscuits, cakes, and of course a special secret recipe for tomato relish. I remember I'd always eagerly wait, my nose pressed against the door for Grandma's silver car to pull into the driveway. One time, I believe I was around just after my 5th birthday, I got this brand new pink bike. I remember begging Dad to take it down so I could show Grandma. He agreed and loaded it into the back of the ute, and I ended up staying at Grandma's for a few days. At the time, I was still using training wheels. Grandma suggested I try to ride my new bike without the training wheels. I was a bit apprehensive at first, but she soon convinced me to at least give it a try. Together, we scoured the old shed for the tools to pry off the wheels. Once we had them off, we headed down to the end of the cul-de-sac near our house. Grandma helped me get started by holding the bike steady, and I soon found my balance. She'd run alongside me, holding me up until I built up enough momentum. Then she'd gently let go. I remember losing my patience more than once during this process, but Grandma was always there to encourage me and help me back on the bike. Eventually I got the hang of it, and I was soon riding circles around her. Another time, my brother Cameron and I were staying at our house. As we walked out the front gate, we saw Casper, her old tortoiseshell cat, playing with a snake she had caught. Grandma reacted swiftly, ushering us back inside the house and calling over some tradies who were working on the house down the street. One young bloke quickly ran up and chewed the cat away. Thinking the snake was dead, he grabbed it around the body. He grabbed the body, but it started wrapping itself around his arm. He dropped the snake in alarm and quickly grabbed a nearby spade and promptly chopped off its head. As I grew older, her late-night phone calls became one of my routine. She listened without judgment, letting me vent my frustrations. When I got my learner's permit for driving a car, I always asked my parents when we could visit Grandma next, not only to log some hours, but also to see one of my favourite people. Grandma's love wasn't just about the things she did for us, it was the moments we shared together. For me, I remember that at the end of Grandma's street there was the marshy water catchment area. We'd always take a container and see how many frogs we could find. I recall taking long lazy walks along the Murray River. I remember sitting on her knee before bed or her taking me to the local swimming pool or Goolwa beach for an ice cream. Then we spent the long hours driving through the country. And when her health set her back, I'd skip school to come visit her in the hospital to try and brighten up her day. I admire her strength and resilience through the toughest of times. And she became the backbone of our family through a horrible accident. She was stoic and brave to the end, and I am proud of how the family came together during this difficult time. I know the kind and loving texts and calls Grandma received in her final weeks meant the world to her. I'd also like to send my gratitude to the doctors and nurses at the hospital that cared for Grandma throughout her life and her amazing friends and neighbours. I like to say at the end she was more titanium than bone. She was married just shy of 50 years. She left behind children and great-grandchildren, friends and family, but she also left behind 100 hugs, 1,000 smiles and 1,000,000 memories.
Wonderful, thank you. Now, Sean?
Bear with me. Kylie remembers all the things Barb did for her calisthenics, all the outfits and costumes she made, hand sewing on 1,000,000 sequins for every recital and parade. There was always glue and glitter in the house and in the car. For most of the competitions, Barb and Kylie would travel very far. Barb and Stan would often go to the pub. On an occasion, Barb and Kylie tagged along. They usually stayed for a couple of drinks, but this night in question, Barb didn't stay too long. Barb's drink of choice was a Coke and brandy, and Kylie was allowed to have a small Coke. Kylie would normally sit pretty still, but not this certain day, no joke. Apparently Kylie was doing cartwheels. She was heading for the door. Then the next second she went quiet. Kylie was passed out on the floor. And to make the story even better, Kylie was only 4. Barb still didn't know how she managed to mix up that brandy and Coke, but to this day it's still a family joke. Now I called Barb Mrs. J when I started going out with Kylie, so this one's Mrs. J. I moved to Goolwa in the summer of 1985, onto the same street as the Johnses, Jumbuck Road. I did arrive. I would see Barb out in the garden. Her lawn was like a bowling green. All her gardens were lovely, the best you've ever seen. I hardly ever saw Rob or Stan. They were always out in the truck. You would smell a homemade cooking. They weren't home, that's their bad luck. She'd always be at the primary school. Barb never really had a job, but she used to drive the high school bus when not looking after Kylie, Stan or Rob. I moved to Adelaide for high school, then moved back to work to Currency Creek. Kylie invited me to her 18th of Lynx Africa spray I did reek. I must have made a good impression because Barb was my future mother-in-law. Barb even hosted our engagement party. She made the cake, flowers and much more. We bought the house in Goolwa. Barb fixed it up, that's for certain. She did lots of sanding and painting. She even made the curtains. Kyle and I got married in 2000. Barb helped again with the wedding cake, also with decorations and flowers, and 3 bridesmaids' dresses she did make. After a few years, we moved to Adelaide to work at John's Marine Transport. Barb would bring up lots of homemade food. The visits were appreciated, but often too short. Kyle and I did a half a lap of Australia with a 2-year stop in Darwin along the way. Barb came up for a visit. She always talked about that holiday. We moved back to Adelaide and bought a house in Aberfoyle Park. Yes, you guessed it, she made the curtains to help make it dark. Barb and Stan had Nathan as a grandson, but for a granddaughter they had been waiting. Their wish came true when we had our little Caitlin. When I was away with work going interstate in the truck, Barb would come up and babysit and help out if we got stuck. Well, 2 more grandkids arrived, Cameron and Isabel. Barb would come up and help with all the grandkids as well. There would be lots of kids' parties spread throughout the year. Barb would bring up lots of food, all sorts of gear. Savoury toast, pinwheels and sausage rolls, lemon slice, peppermint slice and lots of rum balls. When the kids were learning to ride their bikes, where we lived wasn't very flat. Barb said bring them down to Goolwa. She even helped out with that. As Barb got older and the years went on, the visits to Adelaide were few and far between. We would go down to visit her. The kids were especially keen. Barb kept the house chock-a-block full of homemade goodies and homegrown food. She would give us soup, biscuits, jams and sauces. We couldn't say no, she'd consider it rude. Barb could do anything. She could plant it, grow it, cook it, bake it, make it, decorate it, paint it, stitch it, knit it, crochet it or fix it. Whether it's baking or knitting for hours, cooking, cleaning or growing flowers. Barb was more than this though. She was a wonderful wife, a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother. She was a great person her entire life. Barb was my friend and my mother-in-law. She would be sadly missed, that's for sure.
We have a poet in the house. Thank you, everyone, for sharing those memories. The family's put a collection of photos to celebrate. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. Come forward, darling.
My grandma was a fighter. No matter what was going on, she would get through it. For the amazing 15 years I got to spend with her were the best years I could ever ask for. From trying to spy into the living room with Nathan to see if the Easter Bunny was there, or trying to set up a camera on Christmas Eve to see Santa. All of Grandma's amazing pets she had over the years, I even got to call one of her chickens my own. All of her cooking, and my favourite were the slices, especially the caramel one, and I can't forget her amazing, incredible cream salad dressing. I loved my grandma so very much, and I can't quite seem to believe that she is gone. I will miss her every day.
Thank you, Isabel. Now, moving forward, the family has put a collection of photos to celebrate Barbara's life, and as we show them in the slide show, would you please reflect on your own memories and thoughts about her and of the times that you shared?
When troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here. Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones here today. Toast to the ones that we lost on the way, 'cause the drinks bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back your. There's a time that I remember when I did not know no pain, when I believed in forever and everything would stay the same. Now my heart feel like December when somebody say your name, 'cause I can't reach out to call you, but I know I will one day. Hey. Everybody hurts sometimes, everybody hurts someday. Hey, hey. But everything gon' be alright. Gonna raise a glass and say, hey. Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones here today. Toast to the ones that we lost on the way. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back your. Memories bring back your. There's a time that I remember when I never felt so lost, and I felt all of the hatred was too powerful to stop. Now my heart feel like an ember, and it's lighting up the dark. I'll carry these torches for you, and you know I'll never drop. Yeah, everybody hurts sometimes, everybody hurts someday. Yeah, yeah. But everything gon' be alright. Gonna raise a glass and say, hey. Here's to the ones that we got. Oh, cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones here today. Toast to the ones that we lost on the way. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back your. Memories bring back your. Memories bring back your. Memories bring back your.
Many memories there. And now I'd like to open it up to you, the guests. Is there anyone here who would like to come forward and share some memories that you have of Barbara? Yes.
Hello everybody. For those that don't know me, I'm Tanya Mitchell. I'm the Commodore here at the Goolwa Aquatic Club, and I'd really like to acknowledge Barb's presence and her time here at the club. So talking with Rob and Kylie the other day and gleaning some of the stories from the early 80s and into the time here, and some of the shenanigans that happened along the way, but we'll save that for later on and some talking a bit later. So the Johns family all became involved with the Goolwa Aquatic Club pretty much once they moved to Goolwa in the early 80s. Barb stepped into the role as secretary here at the club, but she was involved in the planning of club activities and events. In the early days of speedboats here at the club, there was a monthly boat weekend, our early picnic days from October to May. So the week leading into each of these events, Barb would be cooking. She'd be preparing for the catering for the weekend. The week after the event, Barb would be cleaning the club from top to bottom. So in the nearly 20 years of service to the club, Barbara was secretary to multiple Commodores here at the club, including her son, Rob, in the mid-90s. She was a regular member here on our Friday social nights and would be happy to be volunteering when we needed some fundraising done and selling raffle tickets at any of our events. While we hadn't seen Barb here at the club in recent times, we know she was always a strong supporter of the club. I'll miss her, I'll tell you what, ideas and stories, and we will all miss her smile.
Is there anyone else who would like to share a story? Yeah.
I'm her little sister Helen, and I was always her little sister because I'm 14 years younger than Barb. So I felt like she was almost like another mum when I was little, but as we grew older we became the very dearest friends. And I used to really love when it came holidays, school holidays, to be able to go to Barb's and spend time there. I remember when I was very little and we used to go to their place for maybe Sunday night dinner, and Barb would make a special potato salad for me because she would make it with onion and I didn't like onion. So she would make me a special mashed one, and I realised lots of times later that it was actually just potato that she'd left the onion out, but it was special for me. I also remember a very special Christmas present she gave me, which was a little black fluffy kitten with a red bow. It's the best one I ever had. And she was called Sooty, and we had lots of Sooties over the years, but that was a special one. And I also remember playing on the tennis court on our Yarenga farm with my brothers, and I'm sure Bruce was there and perhaps Ian. But Barbara was a pretty mean tennis player with a nasty little slice. And I can remember she used to slice his ball and beat the boys, and we used to just about laugh till we wet ourselves. It was really funny. We laughed and laughed and laughed, but so many beautiful memories of a beautiful sister, and we'll all miss her terribly.
Thank you. I'm sure there will be many opportunities later on at refreshments for you to keep sharing your memories. Barbara had a belonging to the Christian faith, and in keeping with that, I now invite you to join with me, if you so wish, to recite the Lord's Prayer. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen. Amen. We're coming to the end of this memorial service. Before we leave, though, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you all again on behalf of the family for coming today and for the love and support that's been given to them. I thank you again for those wonderful stories that you've told. Really lovely, thank you. Would you please stand, everyone? If you can. There is a season for everything, a time for every occupation under heaven, a time for giving birth and a time for dying, a time for tears, a time for laughter, a time for mourning, a time for dancing, a time for keeping silent and a time for speaking, a time for loving and a time for peace. As we have heard, there is a season for everything, and although this is a time for dying and endings, it is also a time for peace. Part of our grief may be regret for things done or left undone, words said or never said, or moments that never happened. This is the time to lay aside all those regrets and to honour the spirit of Barbara, who would never want them carried into our future. In love and respect, you have remembered Barbara's life and recalled the person she has been. In your hearts, you will keep memories of a long, full and loving life. The life of Barbara Johns, whom you have loved, lives on in you in a multitude of ways. Would you please be seated? As we're about to leave this place and later return to our homes, to our families, to our work, let us resolve to live our lives fully and well, and with purpose, with the same enthusiasm, commitment, determination, and above all, the love that Barbara demonstrated throughout her life. Would you just give the family, this concludes the ceremony. Would you just please give the family a few moments before gathering together outside for refreshments? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.